Dan Dickau here for Gonzaga Nation SI, the Gonzaga Nation Media Network. It's definitely the dog days of summer in regards to information coming out, all of college basketball, as well as individual programs such as Gonzaga's. But been planning on kind of a little bit of a schedule breakdown ever since the PK 85 bracket was released, as well as the announcement of Gonzaga playing Michigan State in the Armed Force Classic on an aircraft carrier in San Diego, which I think is awesome. But huge news coming out of Spokane and Lexington, Kentucky, just a couple days ago, in the fact that Gonzaga continues to play anybody, anywhere, anytime there is an open date on their schedule. And so they will be playing Kentucky this year, November 20th, at the Spokane Arena, before returning the game next season at Rupp Arena. So pretty awesome news if you're a Gonzaga fan. You know, we've been anybody that's kind of a Gonzaga fan has been clamoring for a couple big time programs to be able to kind of have a home and home series play Gonzaga. Kentucky has always been at the top of the list. North Carolina has done it. Michigan State has done it. Baylor has done it. UCLA, Arizona. You kind of keep going up and down the list. They've done it. I think if you look at it, the only other team or teams that would be considered blue blood type schedule that would be awesome to have a home and home series with would be Villanova and Duke. If Gonzaga were to be able to get those two teams on their schedule in the very near future, nobody could have any type of complaint. Well, Gonzaga doesn't play anybody. They play in a bad lower level conference. Well, that's not true. The WCC has improved immensely, but Gonzaga has always been as proactive as possible with their scheduling to get them battle tested early in the season to get ready for the rigors of league play with the schedule and have themselves ready to go for the NCAA tournament. So unbelievable news. It's great to hear that Kentucky and Gonzaga are going to play November 20th, as I mentioned, at Spokane Arena. A lot of people are complaining that, hey, why isn't it in the kennel? Well, I'll tell you this right now. It's not in the kennel because Calipari would not play the game in the kennel. I've had a chance to broadcast a game at Rupp Arena a few years back. It was a Westwood One radio game, Auburn and Kentucky, and day of the game went to shoot around at Kentucky's practice facility and just talking with some of the staff, director of ops, kind of, special assistants here and there. And we just start talking basketball, lay of the landscape, and a little bit about, the Memphis Gonzaga series, because Calipari was the head coach of Memphis when that series was going on, and how great those were. And essentially the comment was, we'll never play Gonzaga in the kennel. It doesn't make any kind of sense. We'll play them in Spokane Arena if things line up and it works, but to go to the kennel on campus, that's just not going to happen. But that being said, awesome to see that the game against Kentucky is going to happen. It is November 20th, as we've talked about a number of times. Gonzaga is going to be a preseason top 3. Kentucky's going to be pretty dang good as well. Yeah, they lost some pieces, but Oscar Tshiebwe is back. Calipari seems to reload every single year. Oddly enough, they did not have a top 1 or 2 recruiting class in 2022. It was, I believe, ranked 3rd or 4th. It's the first time in like 10 years that Calipari hasn't had a top 1 or 2 recruiting class. That shows you just the type of talent that he brings in year out. There's been a couple of years where they haven't been able to put pieces together. They've had injuries, but he gets pros in Lexington. And so I think this is going to be a great series. It's going to be also a lot of fun for Gonzaga fans the following year who get a chance who are going to take the chance and get back to Lexington. Rupp Arena is 22,000 fans, and it is an atmosphere for college basketball. That's for sure. It's not on campus. It's kind of in the downtown Lexington area. It's connected to a hotel. But the whole atmosphere around Kentucky basketball is amazing. It's awesome. It's something that if you're a Gonzaga fan and you think you got a chance, better start planning it out to make sure you get back there, because it is awesome. Kind of working through the rest of the updated pieces of the schedule. You look at the Michigan State game on the aircraft carrier in San Diego. Awesome. They did this a few years back. Gonzaga also played an armed forces game a few years ago in Japan, where unfortunately the game had to be canceled early due to condensation on the floor. But the fact that Coach Few is so supportive of our country and the armed forces is great in my eyes. But I think the uniqueness of this event is really something special. And to be one of the few programs that would be considered to be a part of this, I think is tremendous. Coach Izzo's always got his team primed for an NCAA tournament run, 20 plus years in the NCAA tournament now. So they're going to be good. They're going to have the physical toughness of a typical Big Ten team. I think that's great for this team early in the season to see that, to be tested by that. And when you see just Gonzaga's non-conference as we continue to go through it, it is unbelievable what they've put together. I mean, nobody can ever say they don't play anybody anymore. We've already talked about Kentucky. We've now talked about Michigan State. As you keep going down the list, they're playing Baylor on the road in South Dakota in one of my favorite gyms, the Pentagon, the Sanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls. I think it's a tremendous gym. You got Alabama, who lost some talent, but Nate Oates, I think, is a tremendous coach, plays a unique style where it's tons of threes, space the floor, paint touches, free throws, and threes are really the key drivers of what they do. And then defensively, they really take you out of your strength. So I think that'll be a great neutral site on the road game. I believe it's in Birmingham. Gonzaga will also host UW. UW played well down the stretch last season. It's a Pac-12 game. It's a rivalry game. It'll be pretty interesting to see, the growth of the UW program from last year's early struggles to their growth at the end of the year to now what they're going to be doing this year. Because you want to see a great, regional rivalry game there. You look at the PK 85. It's hard to believe it was 5 years ago that Nike put together this event in the Portland area, and you had some of the most elite teams in the country that had Nike ties joining. It in no time at all, it kind of rivaled the Maui Invitational. It rivaled the Bahamas tournament. It rivaled a lot of these early preseason tournaments like the one in Orlando, because everybody wanted to be a part of it because it was Nike backed. It was Nike influenced. But when you look at what Gonzaga is going to face in the PK 85, they start with a game against Big Sky opponent, Portland State, who's in the PK 85. But after that, you're going to play another great team, whether it's Purdue or West Virginia. Purdue, they're one of the best teams over the last 10, 12 years to not make a Final Four. I mean, they've had NBA talent. They've had Big Ten championships, both tournament and regular season. They're very well coached with Matt Painter. They're always big and tall and physical. I don't expect that to be any different if they were to face them. And then if it were West Virginia, Bob Huggins, he gets those guys to play with as much intensity and focus on the defensive end as you're going to see anybody. Gonzaga's had some great matchups against West Virginia over the years, both in Spokane as well as back in West Virginia. Because again, Gonzaga will play anybody pretty much anywhere, and it's really cool to see. The other side of the bracket for the PK 85, Duke faces Oregon State, and then Florida faces Xavier. Now, I would imagine Duke would come out of that side of the bracket. I would imagine Gonzaga would. So you're looking at a potential Duke-Gonzaga matchup. Maybe you get a game kind of like the Maui Invitational a few years back with Brandon Clark, Rui Hachimura making big plays, Zach Norvell. But if you just look quickly at what this non-conference looks like. You're playing Baylor, Kentucky, Michigan State, Alabama, possibly Purdue or West Virginia, and possibly Duke. Those are 6, 7 of the best college basketball programs in the country. Now, I get it if you play in the SEC or the Big Ten, the ACC, you're going to have a number of those games each year. But say you take a league with 10 teams, not all 10 teams are going to be great that year. There's going to be down years. Maybe you've got 4 really good teams. And so you get 8, 9 really good games, but then you don't schedule difficult in the non-conference. So you're already looking at Gonzaga playing a much more difficult schedule than most teams. I can't say all, but most teams in these power conferences, because the WCC, as we've mentioned, has improved. St. Mary's should be in the tournament again this next upcoming year. San Francisco made the tournament last year. It's hard to say how they're going to be without Imari Bouye, although they return a lot of other good pieces. But it just goes to show just how incredible the willingness of Gonzaga to schedule anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place is. And the average fan really doesn't understand it, or they get stuck on a past narrative. When you look now to the WCC league schedule that was announced and released earlier this week, and Gonzaga plays everybody twice in a home and home series in the league, except for USD, who they play once with new head coach Steve Lavin. They played the Toreros at home, and then they only play Pacific once this upcoming year, and that will be in Stockton. So some great stuff. I know there's a few holes left in Gonzaga's schedule that they will have to fill with some non-conference opponents. I'm sure you're going to hear the grumbling from some people. Well, they're playing a Ken Palm or RPI 300 team. Well, you have to balance it out in some way, shape, or form. And I think over the years, Gonzaga has done a really nice job of balancing, getting tremendous non-conference blue blood opponents like the ones we've just kind of discussed, as well as you got to kind of have some of those lower level teams to fill your game schedule out. But they also do a really nice job of finding those kind of hidden gems in the schedule where they're going to challenge for their own league title. And at the end of the year, they may be in the NCAA tournament. And it doesn't look like a great win to the average fan, but when you look up at the end of the year, it's a 125 ranked team in the Ken Palm, and they're playing in their tournament title with a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. Those are good wins, and typically those are undervalued teams because they're older, bigger, more physical, more experienced, and it really kind of challenges you. And many times Gonzaga staff will also look at style of play to be able to put together how different teams play so that they get prepared to see all different styles. You look at a you look at Tarleton State a season ago with the way they played defense through Billy Gillespie's philosophy. And then you would look at, I believe it was Bellarmine, who they played, that just spaced the floor, back cuts, moved the ball, really predicated all their offense on ball movement with the pass as opposed to the dribble. So Gonzaga does a really nice job of kind of blending out all of their scheduling needs and, I guess you could say, issues in the non-conference. So appreciate you listening. You got a question, because I do a mailbag episode each week, send it to me at Dickau@scorebooklive.com or on social media handles. But appreciate you listening. We're going to be kind of starting to ramp up a lot of our content as we get towards the end of August with player previews, team previews, league previews, and more coaches interviews. So appreciate you listening. Take care. Have a great day, and great news with all of the scheduling updates for Gonzaga basketball.